You're listening to The Frequency Exchange. I'm your resident deity, London Beck, music multi-hyphenate and entrepreneur. With almost 15 years worth of a music career and building my brand, I've done it all. Released several music projects, performed at some noteworthy venues, and even have an award under my belt along with my private production house, Renovere Recording. Join me bi-weekly as I chat with fellow creatives and business professionals alike as we reminisce over origin stories, advice on creating brand platforms, and navigating ambition while balancing the personal of it all. Drop the needle, let's spin it. Hello, good people of the Frequency Exchange. Today is a very special episode because I have one of my favorite people in the building with me. He has an album that's coming out in Q4 of this year. One of the co-founders of Amplify Washtenaw. He has his hands all over the community in Michigan, a part of Formula 734, a member of My Brother's Keeper on the steering committee, owner of the production company Zero Noise Media, which focuses on music and education. And might I mention, principal of River Rouge High School. So I want y'all to give a very warm welcome out there, wherever you may be, for Dr. Rod Wallace.
Woo! What's up, London? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to be here. It's good to be with you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm anxious to nerd out with you about some engineering stuff. Post-production.
Absolutely. Yes. This has been kind of a long time in the making because I think when I originally started, we had talked about having you on for an episode. But I mean, you're still pretty early on, especially after the relaunch. This is episode 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I am so excited to have you here. You are basically my baked-in mentor at this point, friend. Whenever I don't know what I'm doing with just in general, especially when music is concerned, I just very much appreciate having your ear. So I want to give you your flowers first. I just appreciate you so much and just everything that you do, your presence in my life, your presence in everyone else's life, a part of Amplify. We have so much love and respect for you. So thank you.
I appreciate it. And I want you to know that you have been a very inspirational individual in my life, definitely in the last few years, in terms of what the craftsmanship that you have as an engineer and the manner in which you are very intricate in what you do. You take it extremely seriously. And so for me, it's been great to be able to connect with you just on so many different levels. I mean, we can have conversations about all kinds of different things, but there aren't very many people who understand me from the perspective of an audio nerd. So it's good to be able to kick it with you.
Absolutely. Well, I want you to start off and talk a little bit about who Rod Wallace was before you became principal. How did you get your start in music? What was that light bulb moment where you were like, I really like the way this feels?
So, the stereotypical answer, like, yeah, I grew up around music and my parents used to play music and this, that, and third. All that notwithstanding, music was my social pathway to a degree. I was a band kid in elementary school and in middle school to a certain degree. I didn't keep playing in the high school. And hip hop really played a unique role in helping me to frame my identity. The first album I ever owned was Stevie Wonder's Hotter Than July. I got it when I was like 2 or 3. My dad bought it for me because I loved the Happy Birthday song. But I didn't realize that, at the same time, that song was about political. It was political in nature, and so included in the album cover was a sleeve that had pictures of African Americans during the civil rights movement and things of that nature. So my love for music and my consciousness about being an African American in America, being an African American in the United States, kind of grew in concert. They grew together. So for me, hip hop was a pathway towards self enlightenment, towards me comprehending certain social norms or me asking questions about social norms, and also an opportunity to express my creativity. I was a relatively good kid. I was a good reader when I was young. So writing rhymes kind of came natural to me, and it still does to a certain degree. Whereas, it never was something that was intended to give me a great deal of fame or anything like that. It was more so just an opportunity to express my real thoughts and express what was going on in my subconscious. So I still feel that way. So I was a music kid kind of in high school, the hip hop kid in high school, went to college, learned that being an educator was the best way to cause or impact communities. Shout out to, rest in peace to Khalif Drama. My friends Mark, Gene, all of us in college, we wanted to make a difference. So, and education was the pathway. So I switched my major from telecommunications and film. Who knows what I'd be doing if I had kept doing that by now? I might be Christopher Nolan or something. Who knows? But education was the pathway. So when I got into education, I was still I was a recording engineer too. So I was, teaching and then going to the studio and staying in the studio for hours at a time and then waking up, first, staying in the studio to 2 in the morning and then going to school and teaching the next day. So I was the teacher that was, helping DJ the parties and this, that, and the third, and listening to Jay Dilla in class and all that kind of stuff. And then, that transitioned into me eventually wanting to go into administration. I've been an administrator now for 18 years. Um, and at some point, I went to River Rouge and got the opportunity to help build a music production class, which I did and I loved. And then I left Rouge to go to Eastern Michigan and direct their Upper Bound program. And when I directed the Upper Bound program, I had an opportunity to also seek my PhD. And so I studied music production as a pathway to STEM education for kids. I studied how hip hop music has served as academic discourse in a way for folks that don't typically get the platform to be able to engage in those kind of conversations or engage in that level of scholarly research. It was a different form of scholarly research for me, and a different form of discourse. But ultimately, I settled in and did a study on African American male teachers who are also hip hop artists and how both of those literacies kind of inform each other. So we made a bunch of music. I have a fantastic network of MCs and artists and poets and producers and all that stuff. And while I was there, we started the Amplify project that was providing support to um, African American musicians who independent Black musicians in Washtenaw County who would get support from our organization in exchange for community service. So that was really cool. And so I did I've had an opportunity to do all these projects where music was the pathway to higher learning. And so I feel really blessed in that. I get to put out my own music. And now I'm anxious to kind of talk about it, but now it's more so kind of just, it's like a yearbook for me, than a commercial venture, so to speak.
Yes. And I think something that's continued to come up the more guests that I have on is that we all do what we do, but it's not just us being musicians. We are actively and have actively been figuring out how to use our gifts and our talents to educate and uplift and create spaces of community. And I want to start off by talking a little bit about just kind of like how that informs how being an artist informs your ability to educate and really help others make those connections.
At, at the root of creativity is this search, right? This search for freedom. This search for, what do I really, really want? What do I really, really believe? What do I really, what do I really think? Because we wear many faces in the world. I have a face that I wear as a principal and a professional. I have a face that I wear as a husband, as a father. I have a face that I wear as a black man in a community that, that lives in a community that's mostly white. Um, I have all these faces, and I think being creative gives us an opportunity to acquaint ourselves with how we really feel about things. I'll say that first. Um, what I've learned, and what is really important to embed into any arts based engagement with young people, is the fact that creativity and creating art, it is an iterative process. Like, it's a process of growth. And it's sometimes it's difficult to get people to understand that, I'm putting this record out, and what we always joke about, me and you, is an album is never finished. It's just released. There's so many different things that, I could have put this project out in July if I felt like it, but I wrote more songs, and I made more production decisions, and I changed this beat because it hit me different. And so things like that, that is, to me, that is the true value, aside from the self-awareness that comes with being creative. The understanding that everything improves with time and regimen. You know, I think about the stories about Eminem. There's stories that says Eminem gets up at like 7 o'clock, eats a bowl of cereal, goes to the studio, stays in the studio every day until 5 o'clock. Still to this day, and he's the first rapper to have songs with 1 billion streams from 4 decades. And but that process, that regimen, that rep, what I'm saying, it's a rep for me. Like, um, I have not been making as many beats as I used to. But the reps involved in, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna make a beat in a certain amount of time. I'm gonna take a sample, I'm gonna chop it up, I'm gonna add some drums, I'm gonna put a bass line on it, whatever, this, that, and a third. I'm gonna sequence it out, and I'm gonna do all that in 30 to 40 minutes. That beat for me is like the warm up beat now. It's the first one is cool. The first one kind of help you shake off the she hanks, and then the second one kind of tells where I really want to be at. So that's what I think. That's why I think it's important. But I think also, the community element of it. When you have people who all have that shared experience, there's a different level of respect and kinship that exists. The best for me, the best events, the funnest events that I have been to in the last decade are producer beat battles, because it's a commitment to the skill and the art above and beyond. Oh, I'm gonna go do an open mic where I'm gonna do a bunch of songs that I'm gonna do a bunch of songs, and hopefully somebody will feel something, and a majority of people who are there are also in the open mic, and that kind of thing. Versus, let's get in a production battle where you've had an opportunity to really craft something that is extremely unique. So, those of you, shout out to Uncle P, shout out to the veterans from the Michigan Beat Battle League. I participated like once at that time, but I just remember how intense of an event that was. And then we did the Dirty 30, several times. where, you know, that's a different level as well. So I guess to answer your question, creativity intertwines with community in a way where there's a certain level of respect about the fact that people can be their authentic selves. And then there's also a certain level of respect for the craftsmanship,
Yes.
you know? And I think both of those are very important.
Yes, because it takes a lot to be any kind of creative and to be willing to be vulnerable enough to wear your heart on your sleeve time and time again in front of people, some who are doing exactly what you're doing, some who are at the same spot as you, some who are quote unquote ahead or behind, and then also share it with people who may not spend, most of their life or a significant portion of their life creating. Um, and I think that's something that I have definitely had to learn because you know how introverted I am.
Amazing,
And I have to laugh at
amazingly,
that.
amazingly introvert. But that's par for the course in terms of what you can do. I feel like every fantastically great musician has been what many would define as being an introvert.
Yeah.
From Prince to Kurt Cobain to Maxwell to D'Angelo, rest in peace. Uh, yeah, that's just the way that it is. You're a mad scientist. It's okay.
Always cooking.
Yeah.
One question that I have is a little bit of a callback to what you were saying earlier in terms of just kind of the work that and the research that you have done in terms of looking at male educators who have also doubled as rappers or MCs, if you will. And one thing that I've always thought about in terms of rap, in terms of hip hop, is I feel like it's incredibly commodified. And at the same time, in certain spaces, it's also looked down upon. And I find that really interesting because a lot of these rappers, if not all of them, an overwhelming amount of rappers are incredibly educated and have, I mean, if we're measuring it the elitist way that we like to measure intelligence, a lot of them have gone to college and have degrees. Some of them are PhD holders. Who
Absolutely.
is coming to mind right now? Isn't 2 Chainz a PhD holder? A lot of people
I
don't
think
know
he has
that.
his master's.
Or he has his
I think
master's.
he has his master's. Yes. There's several. Yeah, there's several college educated MCs. Absolutely. Um, I think that the difference is the knowledge of self that is fed. So hip hop or rap, we like rap is the most literal form. It is the most literary form of music, in my opinion. I mean, song lyrics have been poetic forever, right? Like I just learned like maybe 10 years ago when what was that, Evelyn Champagne King, when she made the song You Make My Love Come Down. Like I just realized what she really means, right? Like song lyrics have always been very poetic, whereas hip hop rap lyrics are a little bit more literal. Like even though they may be metaphoric and so on and so forth, they're a little bit more linear in a way, right? So it requires, for me, rhyme writing is one of the highest forms of intelligence. Like it's one of the highest forms of cognitive activity, especially freestyling, because you are interpreting language, you're interpreting rhythm, you're also interpreting reference, you're also interpreting of environment. All those things have to be kind of collaborated in a way to become these words that come out and they're on beat and they rhyme in most cases, and they don't have to rhyme for it to still be fresh. Um, I think what has been in the last 30 years, it's there are views of hip hop that are very anti-intellectual. There is music that is intended to be very referential. Like for me, Rick Ross says a lot by saying a little, right? He's not the lyrical, miracle, spiritual, you know what I'm saying? That is more about, so the unfortunate truth is that's more about the artist than it is the audience, because the artist is just trying to show that I have words that can rhyme. But hip hop is more than that. Hip hop is kind of like the feel. It's the, if you said a lot of popular hip hop refrains out in public, it would sound weird. You know what I'm saying? It's more about a feel. It can't just be about the words. And then I think also we don't do a great job of lifting up when there is intellectual dialogue or discourse that happens within music. I don't necessarily think we're the very best at honoring that. Like To Pimp a Butterfly to me is the most beautiful piece of art that I've heard in the first quarter of the 21st century. But there's a very clear line of delineation that says if you don't get this album, then you're not intellectually adept enough to get it. Or if you like that album, nah, that's too much for me. It's too deep for me. I've heard both. And so I think it's balance, man. I think it's balance. I think there is a part of hip hop that says, um, I have to be able to connect with people. And if you're only connecting with a certain population, then you're gonna limit yourself. So we talk to our kids about that through Formula 734. Like the words that you say determine who's going to listen or who can listen. If we're doing work and it's community work and we're working with the intermediate school district, no, you can't use profanity. But I'll tell you what, some of these records that we're working on behind closed doors, just because you got to get some aggression out and because you want to feel something, absolutely cuss away. And I'm the principal. Cuss away. But we are going to explore who that person is that's talking. We are going to explore why you are motivated to say those things specifically and what you're following after, what you're paying attention to. So I think that hip hop itself is intellectual because it's about discourse, whether it's discourse with the environment, discourse with self, so on and so forth. And I think in some cases having a perspective that says that rap itself is not thought provoking, I think that it's ethnocentric in a way. Nobody has an expectation for ACDC to change. You know what I'm saying? To change people's political thoughts. Nobody expects no diss to her, but nobody expects Sabrina Carpenter to get a Pulitzer. So, maybe we should just make music and see what happens.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth, but I wanted to go back really quickly to that balance. I think that the discourse with self is incredibly important. And the discourse that we have with ourselves, that will always and it should evolve. There are lots of conversations that we have with ourselves from the day to day that are all going to differ. We are we're processing experiences from yesterday. We are walking through new moments today. We are pondering as to what the future will look like tomorrow. And I think one thing that I have always loved about being a musician is that me writing about what is going on inside of me today or what has gone on inside of me the day before, or even expressing my thoughts about tomorrow has helped move me forward in an incredibly like powerful and constructive way. I love being a musician because when you figure out how to tap into that tool and use it, it's not only thought provoking for the people who are listening to it, but it's incredibly influential and impactful for you. There are a lot of questions that I might ask myself, and then I'll go and record a song. And by the time I'm done with my own little session, I'm like, oh, it makes sense now.
Or that's how I really felt it.
Hmm.
Or that's how I need to see it in order to be able to make it, to process it. Absolutely.
I want to pivot because between you, Formula 734, Dirty Old Men, you have a lot of music out in the universe.
I do.
Yes. And I want to get into your artistry a little bit. Um, I was listening to Unfreaked Black before we got together today. I love that project so much, but you've also released other projects as well. There's the Professional Development
Yes.
Series. There's At the End of the Day.
Yes.
Of course, you've got
Yes.
Let Your Heart Not Be Troubled with the Dirty Old Men. I want to start with
Yes.
Unfreaked Black though.
Okay.
What was the thought process behind it? How did that project come about?
So I had been working with the Dirty Old Men and had been making music pretty consistently between Dirty Old Men, um, producing for some other artists, engineering for other artists. Um, and we got this guy in Dirty Old Man. His name is JB Swift, right? And JB Swift is like we all have that old parent or old grandparent where all they did was cook. If you went to their house on Saturday morning, like you might have just stopped by, like it might not have even been intentional, but you just pop up over there at like 10:30 on a Saturday. It's like Polish sausage, cornbread, fruit, a full spread every time you go to their house, right? Like I remember my grandparents in Columbus, like we would get there and it would already be like a full spread of food. So JB Swift is like, J is the most consistent producer. So JB got hundreds. He put one on Facebook every day. And put one on Facebook every day, put one on Instagram every day. Sample, couple sequences, drums, bass line, maybe like something queer, weird about it or quirky about it. And he put it out. And I'm listening. And I'm like, send me that joint. Send me that one. Send me this one. And then I look up and I got 12 or 15 JB Swift songs. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do a project because I said I wasn't going to do a solo project until I could do exactly what I wanted to do. And because of how I've spent my time, man, I have access to session musicians, engineers, venues, producers, vocalists, reggae vocalists, flute players, trumpet players, guitarists, London Beck. I have access to everything I could ever want as a producer, like a menagerie, right? So I said, okay, I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do this one, and it's still gonna have that solid boom bap at the crux of it. Because my intention was I was gonna do this, And then I was going to do something that was a little bit more neo soulish, which this kind of is a little bit. The one I've been working on, um, it was easy. So, and then the other thing with JB Swift and the other producers around me is that I asked them for a lot of latitude with their music to make it sound like what's in my head. So on the director's cut, so the first initial one was supposed to be 7 joints. Every album got an instrumental song on it. That's for me. And JB did, man, JB, out of that first 7, when I put the first initial on Free Blackout, out of that 7 or 8 songs, JB did 5 of them. Because I had been so used to doing everything, producing it, recording it, writing it, or with the Dirty Old Man projects, I had been executive producing all. It was a collaborative process, but still I was very much at the center of the Dirty Old Man projects, right? That's Unfreak Black. And then I ended up putting out the director's cut of it because I wanted to make some changes. You know how it is. So I remixed a couple songs. I added a song that we did with Buff One using a process called Song Lab. Shouts out to Gadget from Digital Hustle Films, where look, you get me, you get a producer, you get a rapper, somebody gives them a sample, they chop the sample on live, on streaming, chop the sample, write the song, I engineer the whole thing, I mix the whole thing for everybody to see, and we put it out. It take like 3 hours. So that last song, Book of Names, was from Song Lab. That's why at the beginning, Buff One says Song Lab. And then we just, me, him, and just and Diggerhurst made that beat, and that beat was just speaking, just talking. So writing a song, it's like when you get in that mode, the songs are so easy to write. Like it just flows out of you. Um, and the theme was the story begins. So the first thing I thought about was Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones is a story. The story begins, a maester, sounds partly, a man partly, potential waster, mama's praying, so the plan dodged me. So like mama's prayers protected me. Spam Rizzo's paper, um, what I say, paper in my mind central. Rhyme spilling from my pencil, like talking about myself as a young person. And it's like when I write, I just get to kind of explore like this I get to explore like this forest of my thoughts. And if I let myself run free, I don't even notice that my rhymes are rhyming. Unfreak Black was me just kind of saying, this is who I am. I spent long days calling plays in hallways. Hugs for young thugs who win and lose between ball games. Like it was my life. And it was my life more specifically. If you notice at the beginning and at the end, the beginning is the funeral of my father. And at the end is the funeral of my mother. So this period where, after my father died, my mother moved down here with us and we had to take care of my mother. And eventually my mother got sick and I was writing songs with her at dialysis. And this album kind of captured that time in my life. And that's why I kind of bookended it that way. So that's Unfreak Black. And it's called Unfreak Black because people who smoke Black and Mild cigars, which I don't. They used to say like you got to squeeze the tip, you got to squeeze some of the cigar out of it for it to smoke a certain way. And so this was just raw to the gut. It was just raw to the gut. It wasn't a whole lot of crazy accompaniment and stuff like that, other than like that weird like string thing that I had going on at the end of Expire Expended. But I be trying to do like you, but I'm not quite there yet. So you know, so it's just raw to the gut. That's it. That's unfree black.
Absolutely. And I think, and you know what? You just made a light bulb go off in my head because maybe part of the reason why I resonate with that project so much is because you and I bonded over caretaking. That was one of the things that we bonded over
Yes.
because because this came out in 2022, I remember you were
Yep.
working on this while you were working with Kenyatta, Danny, and I for
Yep.
Amplify Washtenaw. And once I started to come out of my shell a little bit, that was when my life started to really blow up. So,
Right.
yes.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I guess in a way like this, like I I love by the way to just get the opportunity to hear you in your element, see you in your element, and I guess it just like hit me that that specific project has become like kind of woven into my own personal story.
The Dirty Old Man taught me. I love him to death. The Dirty Old Man taught me that my medium is album making, not songs or songwriting. Or I love that. I love taking a bunch of songs and putting little weird skits, and there's so many personal jokes and stuff that's in those Dirty Old Man albums, right? So, and I will say, I love what I'm doing now. I love Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled. I love 6 Feet. That was an album that we did all virtual, all using Song Labs during COVID, right? Came out. But the album before that, called East Grand, was probably my worst engineering job ever. But we would get together in an American city for 3 or 4 days, and we would just make beats and work on an album. And the stuff that came out when we were in Detroit, we was on East Grand in Oakland, right just east of Woodward, in a Airbnb that looked like, from the outside, looked like a old shut down like where like office space or something like that. We made that. For me, that album is the crowning achievement of everything that we did. And we've all went on and made better music. And shout out to Jay Bishop, who's now back from Japan, and he's here. And Gigahertz and Wide Body is doing stuff overseas. And um, RTO is doing this thing out in Oakland, doing sets with DiBiase and Can Kick. And so beat makers that he's always honored and loved. And he's working with them. For me, East Grand, because they all came up. We did Detroit for 4 or 5 days. We went to Dilla's Donuts Dilla's Delights, I should say, when it was open. We saw Boog Brown was working there. We came out to Ipsy. We did a Dirty 30 out in Ipsy. I showed them Grove. We got, we did everything, and just like I literally just shut off my life for like 4 or 5 days and just made music. And it was the best experience that I have had making music. So the album that came out of it um, was just amazing. And then we tried to do it that next year, and I'm sure you know the story. We took 2020 off because of COVID, but we went back in 21, and that's when one of the variants was going around, and 14 of us went to Memphis and started working on the album that would eventually become "Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled." And 14 of us were there. 9 of us got COVID, and one of us passed away, and 2 more of us passed away that didn't come. Right, so that didn't come within like 2 months of us returning. So at that point, it just got real quiet. It got real quiet. Rest in peace, Black Math. When Black Math passed away, he was the blood and he was the heart and soul of what we were doing. He was a sleep technician, so he worked all night. So because he worked all night, he could talk all night while motherfuckers was asleep. Excuse my language. So we would okay, cool, cool. So you had RTO who's in Oakland, he's on the West Coast. You got Jay Bishop who was in Japan, which is what 13 hours behind us. So it's 10 o'clock here at nighttime, and it's like 11 o'clock in Japan in the morning. So he's on there. So I get up in the middle of the night. It's 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and they still kicking it, right? And we were doing Google Hangouts and stuff and recording it and putting it on Digital Hustle Films, which is on YouTube. We was doing that in 2015, 2016, and just talking shit, right? So even if you, at this point, if you go to Digital Hustle Films on YouTube, there's hours upon hours upon hours of content of old producers talking about music. So in every Dirty Old Man project, you hear some of those conversations. You'll hear it like in a little skit here and there, and people talking and laughing and teasing and saying pause and all kinds of shit. So we did. So we ended up going to Charlotte. We in 21 we went to Memphis. In 22 we took it off, and in 23 we went to Charlotte and we finished the "Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled" album. And then in December of 23, I got my PhD. I finished, and I was mixing the album then. And the album was about Black men and grief, because we were struggling with, not only had Black Math passed away and Tashira Say passed away and that Blessed girl passed away in a very short amount of time. That winter, that December after that, RTO Beats from Oakland had a heart transplant. And he's doing fantastic now. So that's why it was called "Let Not Your Heart Be Troubled." I don't know why that came to me. I don't know why it came. But as soon as we were in Charlotte and I started hearing the music, I was like, this is what the album is going to be called. It's going to have this song, this song, this song, this song. And then soon after I got my PhD, I got separated. So now I'm experiencing all of these emotions, but what led me through it was the music that I had been making. Like, this is what what you are experiencing. There is a pathway, Roderick. There is a pathway through it. Mind, body, and spirit. Take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your spirit. Don't get too high, don't get too low. And so that album came out in June of 24. And I love it to death. And so now this album, Regalia, captures what happened between me getting my PhD and now. Going back into K-12, being a middle-aged single man, my kids going to high school, my friends, seeing my friends go through stuff, being busy as though it is a badge of honor. I'm looking at the track list right now. It's right over here. It's on a big whiteboard in my room. I mean, in my kitchen. Um, what it means to like what I learned from watching a shitload of YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Because you can go down some rabbit holes on YouTube that are dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
You know, about relationships. I learned a lot about stoicism because I had to, I mean, I had to kind of redefine who I was because I had clearly defined who I was as a husband. I mean, I knew that I was being a husband and being a father was the crowning achievement of my life. It paled in comparison to my scholastic accomplishments because my degree is still in the envelope, right? So the album is called Regalia because it really asks the question like, as soon as you get what you think that you want, now there's going to be another test. There's going to be something different. What are you willing to give up to get it? So the album explores that.
We're on very. You and I had a conversation about this a couple weeks ago, but
We
you and
did.
I are in very
We
similar
did.
spots because
Yes.
my project that I am working on and had to remove my little Instagram post for because I can't stop writing is it's very much in the same vein. There is, I think when you make these very large transitions in your life, there definitely is a sort of kind of like checks and balances period where you have to reevaluate like, who am I when I look in the mirror? Who am I when I wake up and go through my life? What does that look like? You know? And I think for me, that's been incredibly, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's been hard. I think that my own personal situation, because of certain things that I was going through, I have held myself back. I think that one thing that you have gotten to see is that between how old was I when we first started? Was I 20? I was in my early 20s.
You were.
That was 5 years ago. So I was like 22, 20. Yes, that was COVID. So
Yes.
I was like early mid 20s. And I think that between then and now, you have gotten to witness a lot of layers being shed and a
Okay.
lot of, I feel like I am, in some ways I'm the same, but I think in a lot of ways I am now a different person and I'm still becoming a different person versus where I was back then. And I know part of the promise that I made myself, which influences my specific project, is I made a promise to myself that I have a little over a year from today before I enter my 30s. I am not repeating any of the same shit from my 20s. I'm not doing it anymore.
Give
I
yourself
don't
some grace.
I don't want to do it. I mean,
You
life
don't
is
want to
life
do it.
and it happens, but
Right.
I think the crux at what I'm getting to is it has taken me personally a long time to really come out of my shell. I come from an environment and experiences that have caused me to be very reticent in a lot of situations. When you first meet
Mhm.
me, I am very reserved. I remember when I first met you and Maya and I walked up into Leon Loft and I was very apprehensive. Like I can feel the tension in my shoulders right now, 5 years after the fact.
Yeah.
And I think that really the pledge that I have made to myself is just to be more carefree and to be more uninhibited. I personally, I'm really tired of living in front of the invisible camera.
Okay.
And Maya and I, in a previous conversation, we talked about, I think this was last year when we all were like working on the gala, Amplify Gala,
Yeah.
Tap In Gala. And we were having this conversation about when you go through life, sometimes you'll live, there's like the invisible camera theory where you go through life and you may bite your tongue or you may be hesitant to do or say certain things because the invisible camera is right there and you always have to be perfect because there's always like someone or something out in the ether that's watching. And I know, like, when we talked a couple of weeks ago, one thing that I said is that I have learned throughout this journey of all of these very big changes that I'm once again working through is that this time I feel like my lesson is fully embrace the dark with the light because you're going to need both to get to where you want to be in the end. And I think
That's true.
and I think that that's incredibly important. But enough about my tangent. I say all of that to say I think that these very big monumental shifts in your life, whether it be relationships with significant others, whether it be any other relationships, whether it be career changes, because you've also had a lot of like big career changes and a lot of, different shifts in, in and out of music in your life. I think that these times really kind of invoke a bit of a restart, if you will.
Yeah. What I'm finding is the album is allowing me to kind of process the fact that I have to begin again, right? And there's a narrative that's involved, and I don't want to give away too much, but I'll say that my son is a aficionado of roller coasters. He makes roller coasters. He designs them using a game and like very intricately learns all of the convention, all of the physics based concepts that make roller coasters do what they do, right? The mechanical engineering involved in all. He knows all of that. And the concept of a roller coaster itself helped to kind of center this work. Like, we know full and well that we are going into situations that are intended to feel dangerous to us, right? And yet we do it time and time again because, like I said earlier, the reps make it less scary, right? And we observe other people. Sometimes you're looking down on a roller coaster and you say, hell no, I ain't riding that. I'm not getting on that or whatever. But in the same token, you like, well, but they did it and they not scared. And so we get caught up in these situations where we know that we have the potential to go out and we have the potential also to be greater than when we stood in that line. And we kind of end up doing it. And when you come out of it, you do come out a little bit different. So the project, what I'll say is the project kind of starts with me kind of celebrating this new opportunity and then realizing that this reality that I'm in is not necessarily what I expected it to be. And then I start to grow and then something changes majorly. I start to kind of get used to this new change and then something changes. Something else changes, right? And you go through like the absolute darkest space or scariest space that you've ever been through. Monster. It's like becoming a monster. At one point, I have a song on there called Dawn, where It's almost like a werewolf or a monster is like afraid of the sun, but the sun is what frees it from being a monster, right? And as men in modern times, there's this argument about whether or not men should be monsters or more monstrous in a way, right? You listen to Jordan Peterson and people like that. Um, so I kind of went through that, and then I kind of experienced that life for a while, like being a monster. I became a monster, and I just kind of realized, well, I'm not really a monster. You know what I'm saying? I don't really want to be. I don't have the conscience to be a monster, and so it turns into like, yeah, I know I've been a, I've been bad, but kind of hear me out. This is I was bad because of this, and now I kind of see maybe I do need to, maybe I do need you in my life, and that could be spiritual, that could be a relationship, that could be any number of things. And then once you kind of settle that conflict inside of yourself, the last song is called Outer Heaven. Like I'm looking up, I'm in outer heaven, patting pockets, making sure I got everything. Like now I'm back on this journey, like, okay, this is kind of what I was given from that. And let me walk forward. You know, um, I used to think being smart was embarrassing. A 2.0, a boy before, made a better king. Like you go through certain things and it makes you better. And so that's kind of where this is. That's kind of where that was the story of the last year of my life. So what you've if you're using your music to capture what you have gone through, there's a freedom that comes from you being able to say or speak what went wrong. And it's free.
Absolutely. You know, I'm very much looking forward to this experience. I am so excited.
Good, good.
Ah, I'm so excited. What do we are almost at time. I want to ask you one more question. When it is your time to go up to the great big house party in the sky, and you have planted as many trees and roots into the ground down here as you possibly can, what do you want those who remain to take from the work that you have done?
I tried to put people in a position to win. I tried to make people feel good about themselves and recognize that it was always bigger than them. And we are the sum of what we encounter and not the individual situations we have. Um, musically, I was a good ass rapper. And if you listen, it might take for you to have to read what I said for you to really get it. And that's okay with me. It's like a puzzle, you know, it's like a puzzle. Um, rhyming is like, it's like a puzzle. And like creating that, I'm like a puzzle maker. And I love it. And I love it. And I do it until I die. And I'm an old man now. And I still love to write raps. And I don't think it's anything wrong with that. And that's it.
Well said. And I have to shout out Justify.
Yes.
I have been really bad because I will be releasing my own director's cut of Vengeance Be Mine at some point, but this new project is taking precedence just because of life. And I feel the well is still flowing, and I feel like I just need to write and create and put attention more to that right now. But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely will be re-releasing that project, and I keep going back to Justify, and I'm just so pleased with what you gifted me for that song. I think that what you laid down is also very relevant right now to what I am going through. And maybe because a lot of that stuff was written at the onset of this new set of trials that I am in the midst of. But I am very appreciative of your feature on that track.
Absolutely. I appreciated the opportunity to kind of, I'm in the boom bap space a lot. So this was a little bit different, but I love what you did with it. And I knew I was in good hands. Definitely.
Well, thank you. I try. I mean, I guess we all have the lens of we're not as good as we really could be. Because you know that I am very much a perfectionist, and I'll look at something and I will pick it apart.
Absolutely.
I try not to pick it apart until it dies, but I'm very particular. That is for sure.
Absolutely. As you should be. As you should be. I'm pulling out my computer right now. I'm about to send you this brick. And I'm not going to even give you the song titles.
Okay.
But what you're going to find is everything we talked about tonight is this album.
Absolutely. I'm ready
But
for
you
it.
got to promise you're going to listen to it though. You got to listen to it one complete way through, and it's not completed. There's one song late in the project that's missing a chorus,
Okay.
and then there's another song that's missing a verse from it. You'll hear the blank. But you'll get the idea.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And that's the final note, babes. You just listened to The Frequency Exchange. New episodes drop bi-weekly on Wednesdays. You can follow, subscribe, comment, and share The Frequency Exchange on all major podcast and streaming platforms. Visit www.londonbeck.com/The Frequency Exchange and keep up with me, London Beck, at LNDNBCK on Instagram, The Frequency Exchange at The Frequency Exchange, no space, on Instagram, or follow us via the LondonBeck.com newsletter. The Frequency Exchange is a production of Renevere Recording, and with yours truly as the executive producer. LNDNBCK Renevere Recording.